Hey folks, this is Vent with Dad's Gaming Addiction, and today we're going to quickly review Insurmountable. This is a game that you can find on Steam for about 20 bucks. So, this is a roguelike kinda sorta, where you are tasked with climbing a mountain. I don't do a whole lot of mountain climbing in real life. I'm just not that kind of person, nor am I very athletic, but I thought it was very interesting combining a roguelike experience and mountain climbing. You would think, the two wouldn't work together, but somehow they totally made this into a game. And I gotta say, it's fantastic. I can't sing enough praises about it. Yes, I have one or two issues with it, but it is a really cool experience. I had a blast playing the game up to this point. So, in Insurmountable, you start a new game and you get to choose one of three mountaineers. There's an adventurer, a scientist, and a journalist. And each one has different starting equipment and perks. So, for example, the scientist has this eagle eye ability, 150% maximum camera distance. And I'm like, I played as the adventurer, and I'm like, man, I can't zoom out. I can't see where I'm going. Am I going the right way? And that's part of the challenge in this game. I mean, ideally, you don't have a drone showing you where to go. But yeah, so the scientist has this eagle eye ability, so I might try him next to see if I fare any better. Some of these people have tents, and tents can be used 3 times so that players can rest in them. The scientist has a hiking staff, which gives them minus 15% time cost on flat terrain or when climbing, that kind of thing, one height difference. So yeah, the different characters, adventurer, scientist, and journalist, have different starting equipment and perks. So there's that. There's also different mountains that you can embark on. There's first of all, there's difficulty. There's normal, hard, and insurmountable. You start off with normal. It's still challenging. I gotta warn you. Like I in my first playthrough, I made it to the top of the mountain, and then I died, I think, right before I got to the next point. I think that might have been it. I think that might have been the finish line, but I don't know, because I died like 3 steps away from it. So you can choose your difficulty, one of three. Then you choose your mountain, and then you choose your path. So there's 3 mountains to choose between, 3 different paths. These paths will give you bonuses and negatives. Like this path has thin air, but the snow is firm. Snow firm means that there's better traction and you use less energy, I think, to move across it. Whereas the thin air, you've got an oxygen meter, and that will go down faster in the death zone. As you climb the mountain that you're playing, you enter the death zone. That's where the air is really thin, and you lose oxygen on a regular basis. Now, you do have consumables like your tent. You can find things along the way like oxygen tanks or whatever, and that gives you like a flat 30 or 40 oxygen. There's food cans that will give you energy. I guess I should get into that now. There's different there's different attributes in this game in terms of, meters that you have to worry about. So there's energy. Energy is consumed whenever you're moving around. And energy could go, it could be decreased faster in this situation. There is a day and night cycle, so moving around at night is a bit more costly in terms of your meters. You've got an oxygen meter, but that is only really lost in the death zone higher up. You've got a sanity meter. As you accumulate mental stress and as events pop up that are negative, you'll accumulate negative sanity, and it goes from 100 to 0, just like everything else. Then you've got your body temperature, and that is typically reduced at night or in cold weather. So you're battling a day-night cycle. You're battling weather. As you move around the mountain on this hex-based grid, different events will pop up depending on where you're traveling. So if you're traveling over rough terrain, you'll see like a little exclamation point, which means there's a chance that an event will pop up and you have to deal with it. There's also points of interest on the map that you can interact with. For example, there's caves that you can sleep in, but sometimes the caves will let you explore them. It's just text adventure kind of thing, pick and choose. And then you get experience, assuming everything goes well, and possibly meter gains on, say, sanity or health or whatever. Speaking of health, whenever you completely lose energy or oxygen or body temperature or sanity, if one of those 4 bars are completely gone, then you start getting these negative events appearing. And typically they're bad. Sometimes you can get around them, but typically they result in the loss of health. And if your health reduces to 0, then game over. And that's what happened to me. I was almost there at the finish line, I think. And it just, it was so close. Whether or not it was the finish line, I couldn't tell you. But yeah, so you want to keep all your bars up above 0 so that your health doesn't cause any issues. But as you're moving around this hex-based grid, there will be points of interest like this spot over here. There's an old lady in a cabin. Pick and choose which attribute bar to fill up by 30 points or whatever. Warmth or heat or energy. So you get to pick and choose which one you want there. Sometimes you'll get, there's a container. I guess we'll explore it, and I can either explore it a little bit or explore it a lot, waste more time doing it, but you'll get a better chance of finding something like a consumable that you might need or use. So yeah, different points of interest on the map, but your ultimate goal is to get to the top of the peak and then I guess to the next waypoint, but I don't know anything past that because I haven't gotten that far. There is a rudimentary inventory system. Hitting the inventory button brings up your backpack. That's all your consumables. And then you'll find things like boots and headgear and other items that you can equip. There's 4 slots on your person. There's gloves, there's a tool, there's a head slot, and a foot slot. And you'll find things along the way, or start with stuff depending on what character that you start with. You can also sleep in this game. You can sleep out in the open. That's typically more, treacherous for your warmth and the like. Sometimes caves will let you sleep in them, like points of interest. If you have a tent, you can sleep in a tent. But even with a tent, you still lose heat sometimes, depending on the time of day and the weather. That's the only complaint that I have. I'm like, well, I've got this tent. Why am I still losing heat? Like, warmth. I mean, you'd think my person would be able to... Okay, there's a bunch of trees around me. Why can't I just quickly, get a few logs, light a match, burn them, and then I've got a campfire so that I'm not freezing while I'm camping? There's no mechanic for that. So, it doesn't make any sense. Sometimes I have to forego sleep because if I attempt to sleep, my warmth bar will drop to 0, and then I'll start taking health damage whenever bad events come up. So it's I'd like to sleep, but for whatever reason, my character can't start a fire and warm himself up. So, I don't understand that part of it. That's a game mechanic that doesn't make any sense to me. Aside from that one complaint, I gotta say, folks, this is a great game. I'm having a great time with it. It's challenging. I typically don't like a challenge. In fact, I would have liked an easy mode. There is normal, and then there's hard and insurmountable. I would have liked a way to customize your settings so that you can have a bit more freedom to look around and see what's there. I know it's a roguelike-ish kind of game, and they're meant to be difficult, but I would still like the custom setup options. Don't Starve Together, for example, or Don't Starve, has a very extensive custom setup, even though the game is very difficult and challenging because it will kill you on a regular basis. It does have a custom setup to where you can brave the elements a bit more freely and get, a ton of this or a ton of that or fewer of this. I would love to see similar options available for this game. So aside from some questionable gameplay mechanics, again, the lack of being able to start a fire to warm yourself up whenever you're in a tent, or the lack of customization options when you're starting a new game to make your experience easier, this is great, guys. For a... there's not a whole lot of mountain climbing games out there, but this one is really well done. So do I recommend it? Absolutely yes. It may frustrate you because of the challenge and the difficulty and the RNG, but I still recommend it nonetheless. $20. Yes, grab it. If you guys haven't already, subscribe to me on Twitch and YouTube. That way you can stay up to date with any new content I happen to publish. This is Vince. Thanks for watching, and I will catch you guys next time.